Hey everyone, so let's go over, this is going to be like the last question that we have on the test, so I wanted to make sure. This should all be familiar to you, but be sure that you're familiar with the question for the test. So let's look at the first part. It says, for each comparison below, insert the symbol greater than, equal to, or less than, equal to, or greater than, that correctly indicates the relationship between the two quantities. So we have f of x is the function that I have a graph for, and g of x is the function that I have a table for. So if we look at f of 2, if we look at f of 2, what that means is I go to the graph and I find x is 2 and I figure out what where the function is. And as you can see, at x equals 2, the function, that's a 0. Okay? So f of 2 is equal to 0. And g of 2, let's see what g of 2 is. G of 2 in a table, I can go to where is x2, and my output is 8. So here, g of 2 is 8. So which is bigger? G of 2 is bigger. So in this case, I would say, if we go back to where A is, f of 2 is less than G of 2. And that's the correct symbol to put in there. Question B says the y-coordinate of the y-intercept of f of x and the y-coordinate of the y-intercept of g of x. Okay, so let's do both of those things. We'll find the y-intercept of f of x, and that's going to be up here at approximately 1, 2, 3.5. So and I'm going to write the y-intercept of f of 0 is approximately on the graph 3.5. And then let's do g of 0 would be the x-intercept of g, so that's y, here, it's 0, 0. So g of 0 is equal to 0. So in this case, the f of x is greater than the g of x, so it's going to be that direction because you guys, this side is bigger than this side. So do you remember the alligator? The alligator is eating the bigger side, right? Question C says, don't freak out, question C says, the minimum value of f of x on the interval from 0 to 3, so f of x from 0 to 3 is going to be from here to here, okay? And the minimum value of g of x on the interval from 0 to 3. Oh, so I don't have a 3 here. Let's just assume that 2 is the 3. Or I know what 3 is going to be. I can finish this table. Why don't we just put that in? If 3 was there, it would be 3, and then 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. So this is going to be 27. So the minimum value of f of x on the interval from 0 to 3. So on the graph from 0 to 3, the lowest point is going to be here, right? That's the lowest point. Only between those values 0 and 3, and that is -2. Okay, so for f of x, that is -2. And for g of x, the minimum value is going to be 0, right? 0. So in this case, f of x is smaller, so we'll do that. And last, we have the average rate of change of f of x from 0 to 2, and the average rate of change of z of x from 0 to 2. So remember, when we're trying to find the average rate of change, we want to draw a straight line. So in this case, let me clear off the graph here. And let me clear off this stuff here. It might be a good idea to remember the formula for slope. I'll write it over here. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so let's find our values. So for the graph, 0, when x is 0, we are up at about, it's probably not quite, but we said 3.5, right? So that's our x value. Let's put the point up here. We're going from 0, 3.5 to, what's our second point? 2, 0. Okay, and what we're looking for is the slope to get from one point to the other point. And in this case, it's the rise over the run. In this case, because it's on the graph, we could just count that. So our rise is, we're going up 3.5. So for g of x, our slope is going to be, or for f of x, I'm sorry, f of x, our slope is going to be 3.5 over 2. But there's one thing, you guys, this is going to be a negative slope, so let's not forget that this answer is going to be negative. So half of 3.5 and it's negative, so 1.25. So the slope for f of x is negative 1 point, is equal to negative 1.25, which is the same as negative 1 1/4, which is the same as negative 5/4. Okay. Then we're going to find the slope, and this time we actually will use the formula over here. Okay. So we're going from 0, 0 to 2, 8. So our formula is, our y2 is 8, our y1 is 0, our x2 is 2, and our x1 is also 0. So 8 minus 0 is just 8, 2 minus 0 is just 2, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So the average rate of change for g of x is equal to 4. The average rate of change for f of x is equal to 5/4. So which one is bigger? Obviously, that is the g of x slope is bigger between those 2 points only, right? Between those 2 points only. So how are we going to write our blah, 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 blah? F of x is smaller. That's how we have to write it. F of x is smaller. Okay, let me know before the test if you have any questions.